We have another video that came out from Dungeons and Dragons talking about monstrosities. And we're going to touch on a couple points there. But they also said something there that for some reason is just really grating at me, and I kind of wanted to touch on it and get you guys' opinion on the matter as well. They talked again about many of the creatures having a change in their creature type. Now, I realize this is not a big deal, and it should not be causing me this much consternation, but I am struggling with the logic and consistency to it, which is part of me being a computer nerd to begin with. If it doesn't make sense, if it's not logical, it just scrapes at the back of my brain. Now, they have mentioned in their videos that changing some of the creature types would change how they're affected with certain spells, and we're going to take a quick look at that. But it has a lot of other effects within the game as well, and I'm sure they've taken all of those into account as well. But I just think it really changes a lot of things, and some of it doesn't make sense. And part of what doesn't make sense was really peaked in this last video. We're going to look at one quick clip from the Monstrosities video.
That classic monster is a monstrosity. And one of the few things that unites them is many of them were either crafted or distorted by magic.
Yeah.
So as you go through, you'll see that often the one thread that they have in common is like this creature, like with the owl bear was, a wizard did it.
So we can see that creatures that are in the monstrosity category may be creatures that were once of a different type and have been changed through some sort of magical abilities, crafted or distorted by magic. Another thing that might determine the creature type of a specific creature would be its origin. Here they talk about gnolls, hopped up on Yeenoghu blood, being fiends and not just crazy humanoids. And they also talk about goblins being Fey because they originated in the Feywild.
You're going to see that in the gnolls, and group after group. They work more cohesively as a group, and gnolls are more terrifying than they've ever been before, particularly because we've just embraced now. Gnolls are fiends. These are not just bloodthirsty humanoids. No, they are hopped up on Yeenoghu blood and are actually fiends. Similarly, the goblins are, rather than being humanoid, are Fey.
Right.
And this is something we've been nodding toward in a number of our books in recent years.
Yeah, for a while now, yeah.
Of the goblin roots in the Feywild, and now we have fully embraced that.
So then that brings up a couple of questions about other species. In the past, goblins and gnolls were playable species, and I would assume at some point a lot of those other species will come back in and be playable again. That means you're going to have playable characters that are not humanoid. So let's look at a couple of questionable ones within the player's handbook right now. If we look at the Dragonborn, for example, the ancestors of Dragonborn hatched from the eggs of chromatic and metallic dragons. One story holds that these eggs were blessed by the dragon gods Bahamut and Tiamat. So my question is, why are these not of the dragon creature type? Their origin is certainly draconic. You could even suggest that they should be monstrosities, as they were crafted or distorted by the magic of two very powerful gods. But they aren't. They're just humanoids because they're playable species in the player's handbook. Oh, shoot. Wait a minute. I'll be right back.
Mike the Mimic here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. Thanks.
Okay. Where was I? Oh, right. Well, how about the tieflings? The tieflings are either born in the lower planes or have fiendish ancestors who originated them. Goblins long ago had ancestors in the Feywild, so they're Fey. Tieflings could literally have been born in a lower plane, but they're humanoids, so their plane of origin is inconsequential. Or they may have fiendish ancestors. Either way, that would suggest they should be creature type fiend and not humanoid. But again, they're in the player's handbook, so they made him humanoid. So let's look at just a couple of species that we know about that have been playable species and probably will be playable species again. The Kenku is a monstrosity. Kobolds are dragons, goblins are fae, and gnolls are fiends. Now that is going to have an immense effect on certain spells within the game. We've mentioned it before a time or two, but spells like Hold Person and Charm Person would not work on any of these species. Protection from Evil and Good says, until the spell ends, one willing creature you touch is protected against creatures that are aberrations, celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, or undead. Well, gnolls are fiends, and goblins are fae, so protection from evil and good could be used by the bad guy to cause problems for player characters of those species. So protection from evil and good could be used against goblins and gnolls by the bad guys. But it goes further. This has quite the effect on some creatures as well. Now, we haven't seen the 2024 creatures quite yet, just a few samples that have been out there. Still have a couple more weeks. So I'm going off 2014 information. But if we take a look at the Mind Flayer, the Mind Flayer's Extract Brain ability, weapon, melee weapon attack +7 to hit, reach 5, one incapacitated humanoid grappled by the Mind Flayer. And how about the Intellect Devourer? Body Thief, the Intellect Devourer, initiates an intelligence contest with an incapacitated humanoid. Both of these creatures would be at a severe handicap going against a party of, say, goblins. Because the goblins not being humanoids, half of the Intellect Devourer and half of the Mind Flayer's abilities wouldn't be usable. If we look at the 2014 Goblin, we can see that it's listed its creature type as you are a humanoid. You are also considered a goblinoid for any prerequisite or effect that requires you to be a goblinoid. So even in 2014, they recognized that goblins, though they had them in the goblinoid faction as opposed to fae, could be both goblinoids and humanoids. And I think this is the way that it should be, and this is the way that they should be going. Hopefully, in future books that come out that open some of these other species up for the player characters, hopefully they will list them as both creature types. But I find it pretty unlikely that they're going to do that. Next, they talk about lycanthropy. So let's take a quick look at that clip.
Shaped by magic, whether again the magic of the gods or the magic of a mortal, or somehow mutated by magic. That is one of the big reasons why we moved were creatures into this category. We previously had them as humanoids, and that was, as we reconsidered the creature types of everything in the monster manual, we realized that was a funny choice because, sure, the were creatures all started as humanoids, but they're not humanoids anymore.
Right.
And we did that not only for story reasons, but for mechanical reasons, because there are a number of things in the game that specifically affect only humanoids, and we did not want those things affecting were creatures,
Right.
because were creatures, part of what's special.
So now werewolves are monstrosities. Not humanoids. They were humanoids, and then when they got bit and cursed with lycanthropy, they became monstrosities. However, it's just a 3rd level spell to remove curse, and then they become humanoids again. I would hazard a guess that in most fantasy, somebody afflicted with a curse still thinks that they're humanoid. Even if they're a werewolf, when they're in human form, they probably still think they're a humanoid. They probably still act as a humanoid. I would still consider them a humanoid. But because, as they stated, they were changed or crafted or distorted by magic, they become a monstrosity, even though it's only temporary. So that brings up other spells like shape change. You shapeshift into another creature for the duration or until you take a magic action to shapeshift into a different eligible form. The new form must be of a creature that has a challenge rating no higher than your level or challenge rating. You must have seen this sort of creature before, and it can't be a construct or undead. Your game statistics are replaced by the stat block of the chosen form, but you retain your creature type, alignment, personality, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. Hit points, hit dice, proficiencies, and abilities to communicate. If you have spellcasting features, you retain it too. So you retain a lot, including your creature type. What about polymorph? Polymorph has a line in it also that says, the target's game statistics are replaced by the stat block of the chosen beast, but the target retains its alignment, personality, and creature type. Creature type. So sometimes when magic transforms you, even temporarily, it changes your creature type, and sometimes it doesn't. This is just very inconsistent to me, and this is what's really grating at me about all of this, is that sometimes your origin and where your ancestors are from is what determines your creature type, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes, if you've been changed by magic, it changes your creature type, and sometimes it doesn't. And it's the inconsistency that just really bothers me for some reason. And like I said in the beginning, this is all not a big deal. It really has no effect on the overall game. But they talked about thinking, while they were making the book, about every creature's creature type. And I'm like, I don't understand what their design philosophy was. Why did they think it was necessary to change any of these? Was there a problem that they were trying to fix? Why would you change something if it didn't need to be changed? And I would love to know why they're doing it. So that's it for me and my soapbox. I'll get down now. Please like and subscribe to the video, ring the notification bell, even sign on as a member of the channel if you would. All of that helps me to get the word out to more people, and I do truly appreciate it. Please let me know in the comments your thoughts on the changes to creature type, if any of them bother you, or if I'm just off my rocker, which is probably the case. And if you have any idea what their reasoning behind it was, I would love to hear it. But whatever you do, just remember to keep on hacking the dungeon.